Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris Close, and I have the honor of being Sterling's best man today. I'd like to start by taking a moment to thank the people who made this wonderful ceremony possible. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Jaffer, Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence, the relatives, friends, and all the people who could be here and share this special occasion with Nina and Sterling. Sterling and I first met in high school some 12 years ago in the quiet and quite possibly asbestos-lined hallways of Old Scone Academic. If you can imagine, in a school of 300 people with no gym, where the school sport was essentially a form of a calculator race, we were the nerdy ones. We bonded over science fiction, card games, and computer programming challenges. We also share a fondness for competition. I have competed with and occasionally against Sterling for more than a decade. I definitely prefer to compete with him. We've made road trips with our friends to tournaments in Leduc, Calgary, and Seattle. We always knew that Sterling was smart, but we quickly discovered that he's also an overwhelmingly supportive team player and a calm and collected leader. Whenever we needed a captain, it was him. And when everything went pear-shaped, and sometimes when the money was on the line, he'd be there to pull us out of whatever mess we'd gotten ourselves into. Sterling also possesses a near-perfect memory, particularly his auditory recall. This is fantastic in that he can remember every lecture he's ever heard or read a textbook just by fanning the pages in front of his face. But it can be a bit of a double-edged sword if you ever want to play a song he's heard, even once before in your car. You have to prepare yourself for him to burst into song beside you, and he's got the lyrics memorized. On the upside, it's usually more entertaining than the original song anyways. I also have to credit Sterling with broadening my horizons beyond the small nerd enclave of our high school. During my time with him, I gained a newfound respect for lacrosse and an appreciation for how bad the Edmonton Rush were. It's also solely due to his unending patience with my at times idiotic questions about hockey and football that I can even tell the difference between power play and a field goal. This is probably a good thing, given that I currently reside in a province where people will show up to perform emergent medical procedures in full football gear. Minus usually the watermelons on their heads. I was overjoyed when I first realized that Sterling and Nina were going out. Although, true to form, I was probably the last person to clue in about this. She had seen into this incredibly suave man with a keen grasp of Star Wars trivia and discovered a gentle and compassionate soul. Since then, I've seen them share their hobbies and passions with each other and their friends. Whether it's that board game night, through their frankly adorable paired Halloween costumes, or when they both created an online list of the movies that we as a group had yet to watch, each adding their suggestions and comments to the other. The funny thing is, even when they disagree on something, they have this uncanny tendency to debate it in a reasonable fashion with informed and thoughtful arguments. And if you happen to be a bystander, I can guarantee that you will end up agreeing with both of them, which can be a little confusing at times. I also want to thank Sterling and Nina for sharing their story with us on the wedding website. It's a thoughtful and moving story that I think proves just how deeply they understand each other. In that story, and in my time with them since, Nina's vibrant nature, her positivity, and her kindness have created a warm and radiant relationship, the kind that makes you want to smile just seeing them together. Someone once said, to love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides. And I know Sterling and Nina will share a lifetime of sunny days together. To the bride and groom,